Hi there, welcome to our first market update of 2022. Happy New Year to everyone watching out there. This is the one where I put my head on the block and tell you what I think is going to happen in the year ahead. Before I do, please hit that subscribe button. It makes a big difference. You'll get notifications of when we film these videos, and also hit that like button as well. It really does help us out. Now, before we go on to 2022, let's just think for a moment about the market we left behind us in 2021. This was a year like no other. It was ferocious, a year where house prices grew across every region across the UK, a year where we saw transaction levels, property purchases go back to 1.5 million, the highest since 2007, a year where we saw mortgage lending, it's projected to hit 316 billion, again the highest level since 2007. And depending on what resource you read, this was also a year where we saw house prices increase by between 11 and 14%. That made a big difference to the average price of a person's home. In this region now, just over 250,000. The average price property, £24,000 higher than it was a year ago. That's a lot of money, I realise. So what does the market have in store for us in 2022? Are we going to see the same level of activity? Is this a market that's going to continue growing as it did, or is it going to run out of steam? So factor number one is, as always, the availability and the cost of borrowing. How much can I get a mortgage for? We know from past history, of course, that limitation on lending and the cost of borrowing can have a huge impact on what happens to house prices, what happens to the level of demand. That's what we're seeing at the moment. So let's tackle both of those items. So what about the availability of money? I can tell you right now, all of the indicators from the Bank of England and every other financial institution are that there is a significant amount of excess money available in the system for lenders to go out and lend to people that want to purchase property and indeed do other things. And then let's think about the cost of money. Well, we know that interest rates have just risen, and we know that they're probably going to rise a little bit further through this year, but we have to remember they're starting from an incredibly low base. So the cost of borrowing, or the cost of that interest on your mortgage, is still going to remain very low, and honestly will not put off anybody from going and making their next purchase, or certainly very few people. So I don't think we've got a problem in this area, and therefore demand is going to stay as strong as it has been over the last year. So the second factor is to do with the supply of property into the market. I have harped on in my videos over the last year or so about this factor, and it has never been more prevalent as an issue. Property Mark, which are one of our industry regulators, said that as we enter 2022, estate agent offices have the lowest available property on their books that they have had for over 2 decades. So the resale market is really struggling to keep up in terms of supply of property available for people out there looking. But let's turn to the new build market. Surely they can save us. Honestly, not a chance. There are so many issues on that side of things, whether it be issues with supply, issues with planning, or just general constraints on building sites that want to start and can't for various different reasons. Right now, we are struggling to keep pace with the demand that exists in the marketplace. Boris said they wanted to build 300,000 new properties a year. We're nowhere near that target. Last year, we built the highest number of properties for over 30 years, and that was still 60,000 homes short of where it needed to be. So the third and final factor is the X factor, the unknown. Well, we've become familiar with this. Things that happen outside of our control, events that happen that can change the course of people's confidence of the economy. The pandemic is a great example of that, I'm sorry to say. It's something that caused huge disruption and still is causing huge disruption to so many people's lives. But returning back to a more normal world, the pandemic will still be around, but we've then got to start thinking about general elections. Will there be an early general election? What will happen with the Brexit negotiation? What could happen in terms of other worldwide events that could impact how the economy works? I can't answer those questions for you because I'm not an international politics expert. But what I can say from our perspective and from reading up on various different resources. I don't believe that the UK is going to see anything that will have a huge disruptive impact on what's going on in the world of property. So what does that mean for 2022? Well, I believe that that means we're going to see a market return to something resembling a more normal environment. What does normal look like? Normal looks like around 1.2 million transactions a year, or the 100,000 a month that we've been used to seeing for the past few years. What does it look like in terms of house price growth? It looks like growth, I believe, of around 6% over the course of a year. So for anyone hanging around waiting for a big shoot up in prices, I don't believe that that's going to come this year, and I think now is probably a good time to sell. For those thinking of looking at buying, prices are still going to increase, so ultimately this is probably quite a good time as well to think about getting onto the ladder or making that next purchase. Of course though, you are going to have to stay in touch with us through these videos if you want to find out exactly what is happening in the market. You will hear it here first, I promise. And for anybody looking at moving in 2022, we are here 8 AM till 8 PM, 7 days a week. We'd love to talk to you about how we can help you move. Thanks for watching.